Hello, my name is Barbara Culhane. I'm the District Cultural Resources Coordinator for District 6 of the Florida Department of Transportation. Welcome to our video of the historic Southwest 1st Street Bridge replacement. I'm standing here in the historic Miami River Inn property, and we're going to explore with you the project that the Department of Transportation coordinated with the community. This was done in good faith consultation under the Section 106 process of the National Historic Preservation Act, and it was done to fulfill the requirement for affected parties consultation. The Department of Transportation coordinated with the communities and specifically with the Miami River Inn with this unique project where the Southwest 1st Street Bridge has a connectivity with the inn, and you're going to hear from some of the involved parties as we talk about the process that the department went through, the bridge replacement that the department will provide, and how we're ensuring that it's compatible and sensitive to the surrounding community and maintains the historic fabric of the Miami River Inn and the surrounding historic area.
I'm Sally Jude, and I've lived in Miami area since 1964. I got interested in historic preservation. Of course, I grew up in Baltimore, and I was vitally aware of the historic properties there, but in Miami, it wasn't so evident to everyone that we had a historic property to think of as saving for the future. I got interested in the different neighborhoods, and eventually, as I had less responsibility as my children grew up, I ventured forward with 3 other people and bought the Warner House, which was the home of the first florist in Miami. And after that, as I had spent many times walking across the bridge, Miami's government offices were really available or quite close to the 1st Street Bridge. So that was something that I had a chance to see what was around the bridge or under the bridge, and we had an opportunity to see in very, very dilapidated conditions buildings that were not occupied except by the homeless and really quite threatened. And I got a group of people together to think about restoring that area. And the acquisition and the rebuilding took 5 years to complete, and at the end we had the Miami River Inn, which included some of the oldest buildings in the area from 1910, 1912, that area, and it became a success. Alongside that those buildings was a very unusual thing. We had a walkway from 3 of the buildings onto the 1st Street Bridge, private entrances, if you would, and they were faithfully kept in place through the many years that I had the Miami River Inn. We had to remember when we were thinking of our build-out for the hotel that it was important in 1910, 1908, when these buildings were built, that there were no cars, and many of the people did not have horses or wagons. So walking to downtown was a way of life for them. And the bridge was their way to get across the Miami River. So we recognized the significance and the history of these buildings built into the bridge. And we felt it was important to interpret that period. Through the years, they were open and able to be used. Then the bridge became fragile and needed to be rebuilt.
Over its service life, the 1929 Southwest First Street Bridge eventually became structurally deficient and functionally obsolete with a substandard bridge clearance. A new, higher bridge was needed at this location to improve safety and operations along Southwest First Street, a vital downtown link, North and South River Drives and the Miami River, and to provide underbridge greenway connections. To correct the vertical clearance over South River Drive, the proposed bridge height needed to be raised 2 feet, potentially severing the 3 historically significant catwalk connections between the bridge and the 3 adjacent residences of the historic Miami River Inn. As the Florida Department of Transportation embarked on the Project Development and Environment, or PD&E study, which was conducted to comply with the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, for this federally funded project, it was necessary to not only determine how to replace the historic bridge, but how to appropriately deal with the historic catwalk connections and minimize impacts to the surrounding, locally and nationally designated historic district. This required resolution under federal historic preservation laws of potential adverse effects from the new bridge replacement project and its potential effects on these historic properties. Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, which applies to federally funded projects, is a consultative process which requires the department to consult with affected parties as part of the project evaluation. For the Southwest First Street Bridge project, the Department of Transportation assembled an affected parties group known as the Cultural Resources Committee, or CRC, which included representatives from the Federal Highway Administration, the lead federal agency on the project, the U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, 2 federal agencies issuing permits for project construction, the Florida State Historic Preservation Officer, or SHPO, the Miami-Dade County and City of Miami's Historic Preservation Officers, the Dade Heritage Trust, a nonprofit historic preservation group, the Miami River Commission, and the adjoining property owners, which included representatives of the Neoloft Condominium Homeowners Association on the north side of the bridge, and Mrs. Sally Jude, owner of the historic Miami River Inn, with its directly connected catwalks to the south. During the PD&E study, the affected parties consultation process was conducted via 4 CRC meetings, each one with a specific agenda and purpose. These meetings are led by the Department of Transportation and include the project engineers, cultural resources staff, and the department's specialist consultants who are experts in bridge engineering history and local history. Initially, some affected party stakeholders adamantly opposed the bridge replacement project, assuming adverse impacts to historic resources. The 4 CRC consultation meetings conducted for the project provided a platform for proactive, inclusive stakeholder collaboration with the main goal of minimizing cultural resource effects while meeting the project's purpose and need. Once the department developed mitigation alternatives and engineering solutions, including provision of the parallel catwalk design, which would allow reconnection of the perpendicular catwalks to the new higher bridge, the 4th and final CRC meeting was used to bring those concepts back to the group for further input so that these measures could be documented as part of the mitigation in the Section 106 Memorandum of Agreement.
Through the many meetings, there was really a proper respect for those bridges. The engineers were amazing. They didn't say no, that couldn't be done, but they had to change levels of the bridge, which made it more complex, but they found answers to this all along the way. And I personally was delighted at that happening.
The highly effective affected parties consultation for this project resolved community hesitancy and also formed a stakeholder working group, which then transitioned from a Cultural Resources Committee during the PD&E study phase to form the Bridge Aesthetics Review Committee during the final design phase. This was a result of a request from the Cultural Resources Committee members at the conclusion of the Section 106 process and PD&E study to remain together as a committee in order to be able to provide input on the aesthetics for the new bridge. This was especially important and appropriate since the new bridge and tender house were also directly adjacent to the 1910-era Miami River Inn boarding houses and within the local and National Register eligible South River Drive Historic District. The Department of Transportation agreed, and the Bridge Aesthetics Review Committee was formed. During the final design phase, the department conducted 6 meetings with the Bridge Aesthetics Review Committee. The committee provided input to sensitively recognize the character of the historic bridge and district in the replacement bridge design components. These included the approach spans, retaining walls, and abutment color, bridge lighting, bridge tender house design and color, pedestrian railings, landscape and hardscape features, placement and design of 3 historic markers, and the bridge foundation design changes to accommodate the Miami Riverwalk. What was recognized by Sally Jude, saved and memorialized in the early 1980s, and continued with the current owner, Abridged and the Trust for Public Land, was fit with an appropriately suited bridge replacement project which truly had the support and involvement of the community. The Section 106 affected parties consultation process was key to the success of this important project. This process resulted in a highly successful modern replacement bridge completed in 2021, which honors the past bridge with its connectivity to these boarding houses along the Miami River, while also improving clearances for vehicular and navigational traffic, enhancing community connectivity with greenway connections and bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and improving safety and operations for multiple modes of transportation in and around downtown Miami. The result is a project of which the Department of Transportation and the entire community is extremely proud.
We are finished with construction for the First Street Bridge. Very exciting, a wonderful addition to the Miami River. Today we celebrate the completion of this project and recognize all of those who have partnered to help get us here.
This iconic project is built around culture and history of this area. So we're so grateful to Florida Department of Transportation for supporting this project.
Thanks to FDOT, working together with the partners, these are realities.
This new bridge has made it so much easier and quicker to connect one part of Miami to the other.
The Miami River is the lifeblood of the industry, this historic marine industry.
It's a beautiful bridge. What I personally love about it is it's not just a new bridge. It's a new bridge that honors the fact that this neighborhood and the original bridge was 100 years old. So it's redesigned in the historic fashion. So it's easier to walk across, it's easier to bike across.
This is anything but just a functional bridge. This is an artistic endeavor. This is a quality of life experience.
On behalf of the Department of Transportation, I want to thank you for coming out today on this beautiful day to help celebrate your vital role in development and the construction completion of this amazing project. Thank you so much for attending today. Have a great day.